Welcome back to the PDX Biz Talk. This is the PDX based business podcast. You know my name already. I hope you do by now. I go by the name of Zeke Jones. It's my boy Johnny.
Yo.
And of course, we have another special guest today, our boy Jonathan.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome,
thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Of course, thanks for coming, man. So we just want to know. So I guess you can introduce yourself again.
Yeah.
What do you do? What's your name? What do you do?
Yeah.
And what problem do you solve?
My name is Jonathan Woolworth. I'm the owner and founder of Seabee Construction. We're a service disabled veteran owned small business that focuses in on federal government contracts and building stuff for any federal operations. So Department of Defense, Veterans, Forest Service, Federal Highway. You name the federal acronym, we're working with them. So
it's based around veterans. So
I'm a vet.
Okay, family.
No, my family's been in the vets, but I was a military guy. But like we do, the government sets aside work for veterans. So disabled veterans, the VA sets about $4 billion a year for disabled veteran businesses.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of what I focus in on. It's just. It allowed me to start where, I didn't have to fight with everybody over every job. It's
Gotcha.
I'm in a much smaller pond, rather than just in an ocean. You're in a small pond of people.
You're not out there bidding for jobs and trying to get that job.
Yeah. You're still bidding for jobs, but you're bidding with, instead of, 5,000 general contractors here in Portland, you're dealing with like 6 guys or 10 guys.
Right.
So it's just a smaller
Throughout the whole nation? Or?
Yeah, throughout the whole nation. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Like you travel. I like to travel because it's, you're seeing different cities, you're seeing how stuff works, you're dealing with different people, you're getting different partners. And it's not for everybody, but if you like adventure, if you like, seeing what's out there, it's not a bad way to make a living. It's not, it's not 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, you're gonna be home. I spend 150 days a year on the road. I think I got like 30 or 40, maybe 50 flights a year I'm on, and driving like 20,000 miles a year. So it's a commitment. It's not like easy.
Yeah.
My wife tells me I make it look easy, but it's not.
It isn't. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah. I've showed other vets how to do it, and they started, and then they go, hey, did you have to travel this much? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I can't travel that much. I'm like, why? Well, I just don't like being away from home. I'm like,
I feel that.
So
with those sacrifices, like, what do you think it is that keeps you going? Like, I'm sure that's pretty tough to kind of balance a whole lot of.
Yeah. I got 2 little kids. I got a wife, and it's, there's a trade-off, right? Like if I stayed only here in Portland, there's only so much government operations here in Portland. Mm-hmm. And I just wouldn't be, I don't think, as successful. I wouldn't have learned as much, because when I got into this industry, I didn't do construction before. I started this 8 years ago. I worked in the insurance world for 10 years. Yeah. So I literally told my wife I wanted to do this, and she was like, you got 6 months to make a paycheck. And I was like, how big of a paycheck are we talking? Like part-time McDonald's paycheck? Or are we talking like, Goldman Sachs, like CEO paycheck? Yeah. And she was like, something that can pay a bill. And it wasn't easy, but 6 months in or 5 months in, she was like, you've brought home like a Comcast bill, and that ain't gonna cut it. And so I got a my first contract. I thought I was rich. I made like 20 grand on a contract in Seattle for the VA, and I thought I was like, man, I made so much money. I looked back on that bid the other day because I came across it, and I was like, I was so dumb. Yeah. Like I knew nothing about what I was doing now. But that's where you start.
That's where you start. Yeah, exactly.
And so, but like, it's not, I love it. I like going out and seeing, and so some people think, well, I want the big skyscraper, or I want this. Yeah. And man, I'll take the scraps. Yeah. I'll take a parking lot. I'll take a sidewalk.
What do you do exactly for them?
I'll do anything.
What was that first bid?
The first
that
like
20,000.
Yeah. So it was at the Seattle VA, and I was literally pulling cable for DirecTV into the Seattle VA in front of every bed. So it was like $130,000 job, and I contacted a subcontractor that did all the cable pulls. So he fished it through. I was literally there watching people.
Supervising?
Yeah. Like that's 90% of my job is supervising people.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, that's easy. I'm like, it's exhausting.
Because you got to find the right people.
Yeah.
As well.
Team is important.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing that most people don't realize is, you know, watching somebody work and like being the owner or owning the job, it's either you make good money or you don't make any money. Mm-hmm. And it's feast or famine sometimes. I mean, that's the name of the game. But yeah, I made 20. I think I made like 21 grand. I thought, man, I made it. And then like 4 months later, I didn't have another job. And then I got another job and then like smaller. And I got like another one. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, it's been crazy.
It's been tough. Yeah,
it's been crazy.
So you did insurance before. What kind of insurance work did you do?
I did. Well, I had some contractors. I did like. All right, you really want me to say what I used to?
I know what it is, but I'm not sure if you want to say it on here.
I did I did adult novelty and film insurance stuff. So I mean, completely different thing, but a lot of the same skill set of what I do now, because you still have to make connections with people. You still got to be able to explain to them why they need your services and why you're better than other people. Mm-hmm. But you know, finding your right skill set, I think, is key. Yeah. Like I'm not a builder. I mean, if you like, I power wash my own hand. You guys can't see it, but I power wash my own hand and inflated it like a beach ball.
And you're like,
and then I pushed it out.
Jeez.
Yeah, because I'm an idiot.
Like with water in
yeah,
there.
there's water in there. It literally looked like a beach ball. My hand was like this big. Like it separated the skin from the muscle.
Oh God.
Like, so when you see people like, don't spray off yourself with a power washer. Yeah,
you're like, nah, I'm
don't do it. Yeah, it's not a good look. So like, I mean, I built a shed, like literally the year before I started my business, I built a shed onto my old house. And, man, it's funny because my wife has it like on video where I said, man, I just framed this wall. Contracting's easy.
We need that. We need that clip.
No, we did not need that clip.
At this moment,
here's the best part. It was straight up and down. That was cool. Mm-hmm. I put no lateral abrasions in this thing. This thing swayed.
Sway back and forth.
Oh man, it looked like a bunch of girls at a Taylor Swift concert just doing this. Like it was crazy.
So how long did that stay up for?
It's still up. I drove by the old. I mean, that was my first house. I drove by my old house, and I was like, man, that's still there.
It's dangerous.
Like I won't stand on the roof.
So what made you switch from insurance to doing what you do now? Like, did somebody talk to you? Do you have a mentor? Do you have anybody who?
I didn't really have a mentor. I had a friend of mine, and his family was a service disabled business, and they were telling me about it, and they were looking at maybe retiring now and bringing somebody else on. And so they kind of showed it to me, and then they decided, well, we got an extension by the VA for our disabled status for a few years, so we don't really. It was like, thanks, but we don't need you. Yeah. Not like that mean, but it was like kind of like that.
Like, we're kind of good.
But like I had looked into it so long, and my son was only like about 4 or 5 months old. And so I said, if I don't take the leap now, they're only going to get busier and bigger, and I'm not going to have the time. I'm not going to have the resources to do what I'm like, you know, just the build up to do what you got to do in those first few years is intense.
Yeah.
And so that's when I took the leap, and I didn't know anything. Like, I mean, I literally, like, I was calling old clients. I was calling new clients. I was calling everybody, but like, what am I doing? Yeah. And they're like, are you selling insurance? I'm like, no. And they're like, what are you doing? I own a construction company. What do you build? I don't know yet. Like literally. Like
so you had to build that trust up kind of fast,
like,
right?
Yeah, I mean, but like I knew what I was looking for. So like, you know, if I was looking at paving a road, I knew who I needed to call in certain areas that could pave roads, right? Like they could do the job. So it was about like getting them comfortable with the job. So I had to understand the project to then be able to call them on the phone and get them comfortable with the job, to then be able to say, hey, let's team up on this. Because really my job is get the job done right and keep the government off your back. Mm-hmm. Like I'm kind of like, if you think of it like an hourglass, mm-hmm. the government has all this money they want to spend to build this project. Here they go. They give it to you. This guy wants to do the project. You're that intermediary to get the project done. And you got to just, you know, you got to be on your P's and Q's. I mean, I learned more. I failed more than I've succeeded. I will say that. But the failure, I don't look at as failure because I've learned what I don't do again. You know, like, I mean, you know, being on a job site, you're like, oh, I'll just be on a job site. All right, well, think about it. You're on a job site away from home. You got to think about where you're going to stay, how much food you're going to eat, how much gas you're going to use, you know, all that stuff comes into it. And you're like, oh, I'll just get a hotel. Well, you get a hotel at like a, Holiday Inn or whatever, Marriott. That's like $7,000 a month.
Yeah. Because you got to go out there and stay there.
Yeah. If you didn't put that in your number, that's coming out of your profit. So if you're only making $20,000, that's $7,000. You just get steep, and that's not even food, and that's not even gas. Yeah. So all those lessons, and I'm still learning those lessons today. I mean, sometimes you get partners that don't give you a number when the job's due. And we call it a WAG in construction. I don't know if you've ever heard the term. No. Wild ass guess. I mean, it's legit. Like you're like, ooh. And the happiest day of a contractor's life and the worst day of a contractor's day is the exact same day. When they call you and say, congratulations, you won a job, you're like, yeah. What did I miss? Like, what did I forget?
Yeah. Right.
And so it's a real feeling. And I've never met any contractor who's big or small ever say, oh, no, I don't have that feeling. We all have that feeling. I don't care if you're $1 billion company and you win a job and you're bidding it, you're like, oh, no.
So what's like some of those hardships? What would you say is like the hardest thing about bidding a job or like even just getting it done? Over the years, I guess.
Bidding a job. Bidding a job in the world. Coming from zero, like no construction, like I got some tools downstairs. That's like my baseline of construction, right? Yeah. Like I didn't work out in the trades. I didn't work for a company and then go to work for myself. Having that faith that you're going to be able to figure this out and just do it, but then really understand and like. Thinking you understand what the job is. That's the big part about bidding it. Like you'll look at it and you're like, okay, I need a metal guy, I need a roofer, I need metal guy, roofer,
siding guy.
Like siding guy. Like I don't build houses, but I'm just thinking about like one of my worst. Like I call it my worst project, my best project at the same time, but like. A lot of these things, I had a lot of the scope covered. That's what we call it. Like when a project, so when you're looking at a house, it's the scope. So you look at all the phases of that construction that goes into that. And I'm like, I got everything covered, right? And I was like, yep, cool. And then I wanted the job. That's the worst thing to do. Don't ever want the job.
Don't get your hopes up too much.
Well, no, you want the job, right? Otherwise you wouldn't take it. But don't like...
Like I want it.
Don't be like thirsty. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like don't be don't be like I gotta have this job. Yeah. Because that's what I made my mistake. Because I wanted this job. Like it was a $500,000 job. Like and people hear that number. So like when people hear like, oh, you want a $500,000 or $1 million job, I don't take home a $500,000 or $1 million job. I take home like 2% of $500,000. Yeah. So I'm not good at math, but if 10% is, and this is after you pay taxes, bills, and everything. Yeah. Right. So 2%, you're talking like $10,000 on $500,000. Mm-hmm. So this job, I'll kind of explain what it was. It was at a powerhouse here in Oregon, at a dam. It's for the Army Corps Engineers, and it was tearing off an old roof, putting on a new roof. Mm-hmm. Went to job walk, looked at it, cool, looked at it all, and I got all the confidence in the world when I'm out there at job walk. Like you gotta like. You're like a prize fighter. Like you gotta walk out there like, yo, I don't care if it's Mike Tyson, I'm gonna knock him out. And like you're like Glass Joe, right? Like you're gonna do this. And so I get out there and I'm walking up there and I'm looking around and like I've read this scope backwards and forwards. I know what I'm looking at. And I look at this job. I'm like, I'm gonna get this job. And then I'm the week of like 2 days before the job is supposed to turn into bid where they open it up. I'm like, I want this job. I need this job. Like. Because we have to provide bonding. It's like a guarantee to the government that we can perform the job. Yeah. And I wanted this job because it's like the next level up. Like you got to do one of these next like $500,000 to be able to go up to $1 million, right? And so I hadn't done a $500. So I bid this job. I remember it was like $550,000, like $992. I was like, fuck yeah! And I'm low.
Like, ready.
I'm low. Yeah. I'm like, yes. I'm low by $100,000. My heart fell out of my chest.
So how'd you find out you were low after you got the bid?
They opened it in front of me. Like they opened like all the bids and they like talking to you about it. Like you won the job. And I'm like, oh sweet, got the job. And then I realized, oh, I don't have like all the side, like all the rail around the whole powerhouse up. I don't have that number, but I got like a rough number.
Yeah.
And I put it together, and I put it in the bid, and nobody wants to give me a number for that price. It's like 20 or 30 grand more. I'm like, oh man. And so then I realized like the government wants me to have this specialized person called a site safety health officer. Is a really dumb way of saying a safety guy on staff. That guy was like 10 grand a month.
Just to have come out when though? Whenever you need him or the whole time?
Every day.
He was there every day?
Every day.
Doing
Just
active
supervising?
inspections, or
Yeah, he's like just making sure
walking
everybody's
around?
safe on the job site. Like that's his full-time job, is just to stand there.
Did he walk around with a little clipboard and something like that?
We're on a roof. There's nowhere to walk around. Like you're just standing there. Yeah, you're just standing there.
So easy money for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a bunch of reports he's got to do,
Yeah, but
but
still,
like nobody dies. You did a great job. So we're sitting up there, and we're up there for like 3 months in the middle of Oregon, like down by Eugene, and I'm standing on this job, and I'm like, okay, when I'm on this job, I'll have internet or like my phone. I'll be able to check jobs and be able to bid other jobs. I'm in a cell phone dead zone. There's no cell phone. There's nothing.
So you couldn't even do nothing else.
Couldn't do anything else. So I'm focused on this. I end up this job. We finished about 2 months late. Not like we didn't get any penalized for ending late, but 2 months late. Like people are like, oh, that's not that bad. I'm like, okay, that was 20 grand for that dude to spend 2 more months.
Yeah.
5 grand a month for a hotel or like apartment that I had to rent, and like all the other costs. So it like cost me like 40 grand more. Yeah. Then they went back, and this is where I learned most contracts I deal with are like full budget price. Like just give us a bulk number and that's the price to do it. This one was the first time I ever saw it. They did it on a measurement. So like they measured like this table, you know, they say, okay, give us a table for, 12 square feet. Mm-hmm. And so then you have to fit it into this area. And let's say it only comes out to be 8 square feet. You only get paid on 8 square feet.
So were they charging you by the actual inch or something?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. So that $550 was like all in if everything measured out right.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was asbestos. They thought there was asbestos in this roof. Sorry, I'm going on a long journey here. People stay with me, but this will give you guys some insight. They thought there was asbestos in the roof. And so we tested it. There wasn't. So we didn't have to do the removal of the asbestos. Yeah. I thought, man, I just made like 70 grand. Nah. Government's like, yeah, you're giving that money back. Yeah, I'm going to need that money. So then I went from 550 to like 480, and I still got this dude's bills I got to pay, and I'm like trying to make money. Dude, then they went back and measured it for my final payment. Like after all that stuff went down, I ended up losing like 120 grand on a job.
I was gonna ask you what's the most you ever lost on a job.
That's not the most I've ever lost.
Shit. He's like, we'll talk about that one too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So pretty much that's the downside when it comes to contract with government. Like,
yeah,
it's not like a normal retail person where you're like, oh, it's gonna cost more. They're gonna give you the money more.
Yeah, and even the guys who work in retail or like commercial construction, and even sometimes homeowners construction, they'll give you more. The federal government is I mean, you're dealing with the dudes that got the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They know their money, and you ain't getting it from them unless like they think it's legit. But I learned a lot in that job. Like, and so people's like, oh, what's your worst job? I'm like, I don't really have a worst job. I learned so much. Like I learned like those little details that I got to look at now when I get when a job comes out to bid. I look through all those things that made me fail last time. Mm-hmm. I don't feel desperate enough to get a job that I'm gonna like cut off my nose to spite my face. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not gonna sell myself short. I'm not gonna buy, a super fancy car and not be able to afford insurance on it. You know, and so like that's the thing that I learned. And so like my price now is my price. Yeah. If I win, cool. If not, I lose,
I'm on to the next one.
God love that guy. Like I hope he does it because but I have that confidence that I'm gonna win every time. Because I got to. If you don't, what are you doing? Yeah. Like if you don't think you're the best, what are you doing it for?
Yeah, but how important was that for you to fail all those times
a lot.
to where you are now? Because a lot of people fail and they just quit. They just give up.
Yeah, I mean, I was stressed out of my mind.
Yeah.
I just sold that house I built that awesome shed to.
Shed.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was stellar. We were building like our house we were living in was still in construction. We were living with my in-laws. And I'm thinking I'm bankrupt and like I'm gonna lose the house that I already had. I have like a 2-year-old at home. My wife's like, I'm like, felt like, and like both my parents have passed, and I'm an only child, so I got no backup plan, and I'm just stressed. I got like no bank, like because I'm brand new in business. No one's giving me a line of credit. No one's giving me a loan, and I'm $100K in the hole, and I got to pay people money on that $100K because while their contract is based on, with me from the government, is based on a measurement. I wrote my subcontract based on a lump sum. So they were getting their money no matter what. So when they took $450 from me, in theory now, they would take $450 from them as well. But at the time, they took $450 from me, and I still had to pay $550 to those dudes.
Yeah.
So that project was like, like I still go back to that project and think about it a lot, and I'm like, man, I survived it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest thing that most people don't realize is you're going to fail more than you succeed. But if you learn from your failures, your successes are going to be much greater.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I think, you know, people are like, oh, nobody ever fails. I know huge companies, like people do $600-700 million in construction that fail every year. Like one of my, a close friend of mine, they were doing a work at a university, and they had 2 jobs at a university. One was for the spring, one was for the late summer. The late spring job got pushed to early summer. The late summer job got pushed to early summer. They didn't have the staff to do both of those. We're talking like $200 million jobs. They had to hire 200 employees to do both those jobs at the same time. Jeez. So they went from making like you know, 50 million a year to breaking even.
Jesus.
So they literally lost $50 million.
Stretch kind of thin on that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how big of a job it is. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
No. I mean, you can lose money on every, like, you know, if things go sideways, they can go sideways fast. And you know, it's one of those things where when I get a job, and I've always had this personality where when I get a job, I literally throw out the number that the price that I got the job for. So if it's $500,000, that number goes out the window. It's about getting the job done. Get the job done. You know, you kind of let the dust settle and see what really happened. Yeah. Because if you worry about the bottom line, there's an old saying, like, you're like stepping over dollars to pick up a nickel. Like if you're stressed out over, oh my God, like renting this piece of equipment is going to cost me $3,000. How are you going to do the job without it? Yeah. You know? And so just get the job done, because the sooner you get it done and you get off that job, the sooner your loss ends. And that's where a lot of people, I think, in construction don't think about it is, you know, how do you survive those days where you lose money on a job? And that's, you know, and you got to have a pretty good support system, and not just like at home, but you got to have, like, you know, a bank that likes you. You got to have friends that understand it. And you know, there's many a sleepless nights. I'm not gonna lie.
That's kind of where professionals are made, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can take it from anybody. I mean, I was thinking today, I was like, you know, everybody goes to Jordan for like the quotes, right? Or Kobe or LeBron. But all those dudes will tell you, I needed Steve Kerr as much as I needed Michael Jordan, because Steve Kerr hit some game winners. You know, LeBron needed Kyrie. You know, you know, all those guys needed somebody else to be there.
Be successful, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like even Muhammad Ali for you know, he still needed those promoters that were going to give him fights. And so you gotta, if you're doing this alone,
you ain't
going to make it. I mean, you know, legitimate businesses, you're not going to make it. You look at illegal businesses, you really aren't going to make it. I mean, look at, I mean, you can go back to like Escobar. Escobar, he was just the dude that controlled the labs. Then you had the dude that flew everything, you know, to Miami. Then you had the dude in Miami that could distribute it. Those 3 dudes had to work together. And that's the same in any business is, you know, sometimes you're like, well, I work in construction and I can't talk to this other general contractor because I don't want him to know that I don't know what's going on. We've all been there. You know, I mean, everybody's been there at one time or another. You got to ask the question of like, how would you use? I mean, one of the things that I think is one of my greatest strong suits is I make great relationships with people and companies. And I mean, I kind of can I swear?
No, you're good. All right. You're good.
I kind of no bullshit them and say, listen, I need you more than you need me. I want to get this job done. You got to make some money. I just want to get this job done. And so I'll let them run the meeting. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I know I'm not the best looking guy in the room. So I'm like, I'm good with not being the smartest too. Because I'll say to them, like, they'll ask me like, hey, how do you guys plan on doing this job? And I'm like, I want to go to the subject expert on this. And I'm like, how would you build this road? Or how would you build this building? And they're like, oh, we're going to go this systematic. And like, and then they go back and like, is that how you cast it? I'm like, yep. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
sounds right.
Sounds great. I mean, and that's the thing is nobody, you can't be an expert at everything.
Nope.
And if you are,
you're not really an expert.
no, you're not an expert.
You don't
Actors and actresses in the movies, yeah, they're making the big money, but without the editors and the
Everybody
guys holding
else.
them, boom, they're not going to make that.
That's true.
I mean, it's a team effort, and if you think you can do it all by yourself, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part is, as a business owner, we're easy to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for me, right? But like your friends, like you're going to have so many haters that are like, and people's like, you can't do it. You can't do it. And it's like, man, why? Why would you hate? Why would you like tell somebody they can't do something and you call them your friend? Yeah. Like that's the problem.
That happens a lot. Oh, that happens a lot.
Like I'm gonna give you, like, you have a kid, I'm gonna be there for your kid. I'm gonna give like a birth, a gift. Yeah. You're married there. When I started my construction job, ain't nobody, hey, can you come remodel my kitchen? Yeah. No, but I knew friends that were getting their kitchens remodeled. I knew friends that were getting their decks redone. And it was like, I don't know how to do it, but like, you could throw that dude, like throw me a bone, at least say, hey, here's my budget, and like, let me have a shot. But we don't do that. Like, as friends, we don't support each other when our friends start a business.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think is really, really, really disrespectful as a friend is, how can we work together? Like, you may not have a construction project, but maybe you have a buddy who runs like a paving company or somebody who runs like a framing company. Just link them up. Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Right. Because I see a lot of people do that. Like, it's just, it comes back to the thing is like, maybe they're a little bit too close to you. They're like, oh, that's just the homie. He's not like a professional. I know this guy over here is charging this price over here. That's more than I think I can pay, Yeah. So he's got to be worth more than my homie who just started.
Yeah. I mean,
not this guy. But
you look at Instagram and all that stuff. The people who will pump you up more are people you never knew.
That's true.
It's true. Like you, like for example, like I got homies that have exotic cars and they know what I do. They don't even trust me with the car. I barely met you. You let me borrow your Ferrari to take home. Like, like what, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's shit like that. But obviously we had a whole relationship beforehand. It's not like you just gave me the car, but.
Yeah, but like, for me, if I eat, I want all my friends to eat. I don't want to just be feeding everybody. Because if I'm eating, you're eating. And if you're eating, I'm eating. Because like, it's no fun to do this. Alone. Like, if you do this alone, man, I mean, I don't like Vegas that much. But I like to do my fun stuff. Oh, yeah. I want my friends to be able to pay their own way and go have the fun stuff.
Not rely on you.
Not rely on me.
Exactly.
Like, I'll pick up a dinner. Yeah. I'll pick up, a show. I'll pick up something. But like, I want my friends to be able to do the same thing back. And if I'm not supporting them and what they're doing,
then it's all on you.
At the end of the day. It's all on me.
Because then it feels like you're the only one winning, right?
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to be the only one winning because that sucks. Yeah. Like,
have you always had this mindset, or you learned as you went?
Right. No, I mean, I was raised like that. I was raised to like, I came from a single mom, raised me by herself in Idaho, and I just came from an aspect of, wherever you start or wherever you are better off than where somebody else is right now. And if you can help them in any way, that's what you're supposed to do. It's not supposed to be like, oh, this dude's homeless, let's go get him a house. It's like, this dude's homeless, I can go get him like, some food, a hot meal, like some food.
Talk to him.
Yeah, talk to him, give him some water, like see what he needs. And you'd be surprised, like, we're all one decision away from being that dude. We're all one decision away. And that's where I kind of got raised, is like, if I had $3 to my name and somebody said, hey, I need $3 to keep my lights on for my kids, I'm going to give you my $3. I don't have $3 anymore, but I know you're taken care of. And I'll figure it out. Like, but that's the way I was raised, is to, if I give more than what I take, then that's what I'm supposed to do. And a lot of people see it as me, or only me and my friends. And it's like, all right, if you get hurt and you go to a hospital and you got to get blood, You don't know who gave blood.
Yeah.
That dude gave that woman gave you blood. That's pretty selfless. Like, you don't know
they
them.
didn't act twice.
They didn't act twice. Like, you got to do that. Like, the guy who shows up to pry you out of the car, that guy doesn't have to do that job.
He didn't do it.
So, I mean, you got to look at things as everybody is kind of connected and everybody is responsible for one another. Even though we don't think that way, we are. Because as successful as I am right now, I know a year from now, 6 months, 3 months from now,
could be different.
I could be completely different. I mean, I knew a gentleman in construction 2 years ago, real successful, like legit successful. Like, people are like, oh, you're successful. I'm like, yeah. I'm like new successful. This dude's like old successful. And he was like 54, 55. And he had this terrible headache. And he came in and he rode like 12 miles a day on a bike, ate real healthy. Because I had this terrible headache, it's been going on for a month. Goes to the doctor. They do an MRI. They're like, you got an inoperable brain tumor.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, like, what can we do? Radiation? He's like, no, we can't do anything. And he's like, how much time do I got left? Weeks.
No way.
And he was.
He's like, I can't pay. So I can't. Who can we hire?
Like I got more money than I know what to do with, and I can't do anything.
That's crazy.
Man.
He was gone 26 days later.
Damn.
That's insane.
So, like, you know, life happens fast. And if you don't kind of sit back and enjoy what you got while you got it, you're going to miss it. Because, like, striving for a certain goal is great. But looking at where you came from is almost as great as it is. Because we don't do that.
Yep.
That's facts. Yeah, I think, like, as business owners, as creatives, as people, we always have kind of like selfish goals for ourselves to like, okay, I need to get to this level in my career to get where I need to be. You know what I'm saying? But I think we also need to make those goals that are bigger than us. Right. Things that affect other people, things that, you know, pass things down, just be good people, you know what I mean? I think it's important.
Yeah. If you have more than what you had last year, you need to be thankful for that.
Good, yeah.
You know, and you got to be able to say, how can I take what I've learned and what I do and help somebody else? Whether or not, like, you do it in your business, you know, or in the business industry, or, you know, be that cheerleader. Like, you can tell the camera doesn't lie. I'm an athletic specimen. Legit, like, I finished a marathon in under 8 hours.
That guy. Oh, yeah. He's that guy.
7 hours, 58 minutes, 42 seconds. Crushed it. But when I see that dude who's like big dude running on the side of the road, in my brain, I'm like, go get it. Yeah. Go do it. Because you're doing more than me. Like, being that cheerleader for somebody else tells your brain, like, if that dude can do it, I can do it. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, I mean, I've been around friends of mine and old people that I used to hang out with back in the day, and they'd be like, man, look at that fat dude running.
And they make fun of him.
Yeah. And I'm
but
like,
he's trying, though.
He's trying.
Yep. He's trying.
You know, when I started this job, when I started this company, everybody's like, you can't do this because you've never done it. And I was like,
watch me.
You're probably right. But I don't know. I'll figure this out some way. And what's crazy is 8 years in, people want to, like, hey, we'll buy your company and you can come work for us and you can start a federal division of our company because you know what you're doing. That would have never happened 8 years ago. Yeah. But it's like, failing is almost succeeding because more people will have a great idea and never follow through with it. And then it's like, oh, what if that would have worked? Yeah. What if that could have happened?
You definitely get way more from life by trying stuff and failing.
You gotta fail. It's like riding a bike.
And wait for the right time and never do anything. Yeah. Then you're paralyzed.
Yeah. Like, it's like having kids or getting married. There ain't a good time for that shit. Like, I mean, creating a kid's a fun time. Sometimes. Raising them? Yeah. I mean, raising them.
Oh, man.
That's the hard part.
Man, I mean, like, I got 2 kids. Max and Molly, shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out. They're on the gram. They're on MySpace. Check them out.
Shout out to the youth.
MySpace.
Yeah. Check them out on Friendster.
On TikTok.
They're on TikTok. They're on Vine. But like, you know, those 2 keep me grounded so much. Like, I come home when I'm gone, and, you know, my daughter, she just turned 5, and, you know, for the last couple of years, she goes, Dad, you came back like
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I was not supposed to come back? And so she's like, you came back? I'm like, yeah, I'm back. She's like, okay, cool. Like, on to the next. But like, that stuff is where I find my real value is those. Because when I was going through that really hard time on that job where I lost a ton of money, somebody sent me, like, as cheesy as it sounds, on Facebook. It's still on my Facebook. I don't know, not my profile pic, the thing behind it was that, I don't know what that's called. The
banner.
Yeah, the banner.
Something like that.
And it's like, a truly wealthy man is one where his child will run into his arms but he has nothing to give him. Like, that's way more valuable.
Yeah.
Like if your kids still love you and your kids are just happy to see you, who cares what you got? But sorry to get like off on like this like,
that's
like
true,
spiritual thing. But like if you're not working towards, you're gonna make it, what are you working towards? I mean, there's so many guys out there that'll be like, well, if this doesn't happen, I'll go do this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you right now if Seabee Construction ends tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't have a backup plan. And if you have a backup plan, you're already setting yourself up to fail. Yeah. Like, if you give yourself a parachute or a safety net to fall to, you're not all in. Yeah. Like, I shove everything in all day, and I'm juggling all kinds of stuff that most people don't even like realize. Like, they see, I got a great house that we just got done building. I got some fun toys I got to play with. Yeah. But they don't, like, the stress of some of that stuff, they don't see that. And like, that's the thing, like, no one really, like, 2 years ago, 2020, I got my tax bill for $1.3 million for taxes.
That's fun.
Jeez.
We'll pray for you.
Yeah, thank you. And I prepaid like $900,000 in taxes.
Oh, man.
And you still got to come up with like $400,000.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Bro, you don't even know. I was like, damn.
You're like, damn, that's my big.
Like,
was that your biggest tax bill?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Christ. For sure. But the year before, it was like pretty close to the same thing. But I mean, it was just like those things, when you start a business, you're like, oh, I want to get rich.
People don't know. Yeah, they don't understand that what comes
happy.
with it. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like
that's what you got to get.
Yeah. Like find what your happy is. And I'm still learning what my happy is. Like, I thought when, growing up in Idaho, if I had a big house and like a Ferrari, like, I don't care what it was. It could be a Modelo that's like $28,000. It's still a Ferrari. I'd be happy.
But now that you have it,
I have it. I don't like that. Didn't create happiness. Yep. Like, and so at 44 years old, I'm still trying to figure out what my happy is. And now that I'm where I'm at, I kind of like, if I can just do what I want to do and not have to have the stress of like mortgage, car payments, all that stuff, and I just get to do what I do and be with my kids, hang out, go on vacation, do some fun jobs here and there. That's happy to me, but like, I'm never gonna like, listen, if I win the lottery, I'll be this dude. Like, if I win the lottery, there'll be signs. Like, people will know I won the lottery. like legit, people will be like, I think John won the lottery. How do you know?
He bought Bugatti.
Yeah, like, he bought Bugatti. Like,
the whole company.
Right.
Like he'll be like, I'll take all of those. I mean, for me, it's all about like really loving, like finding your happy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're doing it to make money, or if you're doing it to I don't know if you young kids call it flexing on the gram.
Yeah, flexing.
That ain't worth it. Because, I mean, I know plenty of influencers that are on the gram, they're on the tube, and where we're going to be right now.
On the tube.
But
he says on the tube.
Is that on the tube?
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, whatever.
That's true
on
too.
the fans, OnlyFans, I don't know what y'all go. But like, you follow me on OnlyFans, 1%er. Anyway.
You know about that.
Only feet.
Only feet.
But anyway, if you're looking for somebody else to give you your satisfaction of being happy,
then
you don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And whatever you think, like in the physical world is happiness, that ain't it. Yeah. Like, it really comes from it. And every day you don't have to be happy. Every day I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. Like there are days, there are weeks where I am not happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My kids come home and they're like happy-go-lucky. I'm like, I wish I could be like that all the time. Yeah. Like, I mean, finding that happy is critical, and finding what your reason for doing what you're doing is. So if you want to start your why, like,
why are you doing it?
Like if you're doing it for like what you guys are doing, like telling people here in Portland or the area or worldwide, like here's what makes, you know, some of these business owners successful. If you can take a couple tips from each person, and that's your why, and you like somebody comes to you guys one day and says, hey, your podcast helped me start this business and like these things helped me, that's awesome. Like that's that's the goal, right? I mean obviously, like you know, there's other opportunities there, but like ultimately that's what you want to do. And so for me, my why on what I started Seabee was I wanted to work for myself because I like to do things my own way, and I don't like people telling me how to do things, and I've always been like that. I was a C student all the way through high school, but I did really well in testing. I just refused to do the homework because I thought homework was kind of pointless. Yeah, there's probably more effective ways of doing what I do, but I wasn't given the opportunity to learn those ways because I didn't get the right degree in college, and 2, nobody was willing to give me the shot to really learn like at the speed I want. Like I want to drink from a fire hose. Yeah, I'm not going to drink it all, but I'm going to catch some good parts and I'm going to keep going. I mean, I run out of my company. I do the estimating. I do the books. I do all the subcontracts. I cut all the payments. I mean, I do everything. So like, you know, Johnny, you guys at Epic have like a receptionist. You call my company, you're talking to me. Yeah. Like you need to build like, hey, we need to talk to account payable. Yep.
Hey, what's up? It's me.
Hey, what's up? It's me. Hang on, let me put you on hold.
Let me talk to your manager.
Hello.
Hey, I'm right here. If they ask for my manager, I usually I talk to my Carl. Come here. Carl's my silver lab. So Carl, I just hand him the phone. And like he only FaceTimes and he just sits there like
he's all sniffing. So.
Like that. So
you're lucky if you get a lick.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like I do that where most people are like, well, I want to be the CEO or the president of the company. No.
I just want to sit in that office chair, keep the feet up and do nothing.
Why?
Or what?
Like how much you make is a direct relation to how much time you're committed to the job. So if you want to make, you know, $200,000, $300,000 a year at a job that typically only pays $100,000, you got to be more committed to that job ever. So people want the big check, but they don't realize the money that comes with it. I mean, Elon Musk and all those guys that everybody follows, you know, those guys are making billions of dollars a year. Guys like awake like 19 hours a day.
Yeah, I've seen podcasts of him talk about he sleeps in his SpaceX.
Yeah, like they're so ultra focused on their job. Yeah. And it's not about the money for them. It's about doing something great. And so if you're only focused on your W-2 statement and making $400,000 a year, $100,000 a year, or whatever it is, and you don't expect to be working like 50, 60 hours a week,
you won't be happy.
Well, not only will you not be happy, you're probably not going to be long-term successful because like, you know, I don't know if you know the story of Musk and PayPal, but like his brother was the guy that ran like basically the front end. So when people call in customer service, he would run the front end during the daytime. Yeah. And at night they would take down PayPal. Elon would code. And so they were working 24 hours a day on PayPal. So like there was no sleep there when they developed that. Crazy, and so like that's next level crazy. Like I can't do that. Absolutely. Like that's like crazy committed, right? And I think, you know, as a business owner, you got to say, okay, what am I committed to long term? Like if you want to create a tech company, you better be doing that kind of stuff. You want to create a construction company, you know, there's avenues just like what I do, but you got to be committed to like, you know, driving all over the place. You got to be committed to like living in crappy hotels and, you know, figuring out how to eat halfway decent food at a you know Chevron station, you know, at 3 a.m. I mean, it's not glamorous. And anybody who says, oh, construction is glamorous, you make a ton of money. Yeah, there's projects where I've made a ton of money on. There's also projects where I've lost like $700,000 on. Like, real talk, like $700,000. Yeah,
that's a lot. That's like, you know.
Yeah, and it wasn't like all at once either. It was like just a slow bleed.
Damn. Yeah. So now that you have everything, now that you're successful and stuff,
Semi-successful.
you're okay. Shut up.
He's humble.
Hella humble. So now that you're chilling in life, now you know everything. So now that we met, because you have a Ferrari, you came to my shop.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how we met.
It's a 458. It's not an Enzo.
Yes.
We're still a Ferrari. You also have a McLaren 720S. That's what he has now.
Yeah.
So we're talking about this now because the cars are cars,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So you did Longtail Rally.
Yeah,
So let's talk about that because I've always wanted to experience
I've
the
done
rally.
it twice. I've done the first one, 2021.
Okay.
It you can check it out. I'm gonna plug it real quick.
Yeah, plug it.
If you go to YouTube, you go Longtail Rally 2021. You'll see it. Great group. It's kind of if you've never been in a car rally. Basically, I'll kind of jump into what it is.
Yeah.
It's a 10-day car rally with a bunch of supercars that drive. You know, we drove about 1,000 miles, 1,500 miles on Longtail 1. Stayed at some amazing resorts all throughout California. Did some awesome stuff. But more importantly, I met like some of the most amazing people that I've become really, really close friends with. And I've done business with some of them. So
yeah, how important is that? Like the whole network when it comes to this type of thing? 'Cause it's not cheap to join.
no,
as well,
no, it's not cheap. I mean, Longtail is
How
not
do you
cheap at
get
all.
in, like,
Well, so, you know, I am being an only child and not growing up here in Oregon. I do like Instagram. I'm not gonna lie. I like Instagram. I like it for what it does. It's some if you can find something to make you laugh, makes you cry, makes you angry in a day, you've lived a good day. So like I can find stuff on like Instagram that'll do all three of those things. Well, one day like an ad came across, one of those sponsored ads. So if you're starting a business and you're like, oh, these sponsored ads never do nothing. Longtail like literally put a sponsored ad out there. I was like one of the first people to reply like, I'm in.
And how much was it to be your first one? Can you say that number? Like, what's the retail value, I guess you can say, for everybody else? Because I've seen it online. It's publicly on there.
Yeah, I can tell you.
How much is it for to join that one rally the first time?
What I told my wife or what it really was?
what it really was?
yeah.
It was like 14 grand.
Okay, so in that but that money
Plus
obviously
gas and drinks.
yeah, but that includes the stay as well, right?
Yeah, so it includes
And all
your
the activities you do in between.
yeah, so like it includes all our hotels.
Yep.
Like we went to Thermal, which is awesome. If you've ever heard of Thermal, it's think of a country club for race cars.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's dope.
So like there's like 3 race tracks, and above the race tracks, like on the walls, are these condos. Underneath the walls are like people's like race cars.
So you say condos, is it like the box at like the Blazer game type of feel, or is it like way different?
No, it's like a house. Like it's like
actual
4,000
condo?
square foot condo.
yeah,
What the hell?
Like
that's shitty.
most F1 drivers have a condo
So they live
at Thermal.
So they have the
They have their
place
own
there.
private airport.
Yeah. Oh,
And you can
okay.
just look out the window and watch the races.
Yeah. Well, you're like, hey, it's got this new McLaren. I want to go like take it around this like half a mile course and see how.
sick.
That's what you do.
fun,
It's like
bro.
going out to play golf at a country club. Like, hey, it's got these new clubs. I'm gonna go play golf today. Like, there's
Damn.
like that's what you do. So
what's up.
so we got to go to Thermal, which is cool because there's also the BMW driving school, which is super awesome. Like we got a throttle on cars. You'll see it on the movie. It's a good 45-minute watch. I highly recommend it. And so we went from kind of give you the route. So we started in Laguna Beach, which was awesome, and we went to South Coast Cars and Coffee, which is like one of the premier cars and coffee. So we left Laguna Beach. Went to Palm Springs, which is where Thermal is, and then we drove back to Beverly Hills, stayed at the Beverly Wilshire, which is where Pretty Woman was shot, and we shut down part of Rodeo Drive, had dinner there, and then we drove up to Santa Barbara and had dinner there, and we stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Santa Barbara. It was like amazing, and then went from Ritz-Carlton to Carmel Valley Ranch, which if you've never known it, I'm going to drop this little tidbit. Bugatti rents it every year for their owners meeting. So if you own a Bugatti, they're going to send you there.
Get an invitation.
Yeah.
That's dope.
For 4 days, it's like $6,000 to stay for 4 days. If you go
It's
to
actually not too bad, actually.
if you go to Car Week,
I want to go there so bad.
If you go to Car Week for Monterey,
Yeah.
it's a mandatory. You can stay there for 5 days
Minimum.
minimum. $10,000 for 5 days.
Okay.
Like McLaren's rents it out for their car rally. Like it's sick. Like it's crazy. So then we stayed there at Carmel Valley Ranch. And then we went to Yosemite, which is dope. And they had this place called Auto Camp. And it's like all these Airstream trailers that are like all custom, like luxury hotel rooms, hot water, the whole nine.
Oh,
And that was dope. Yeah, it was super dope.
Sounds fun.
And then after that, we went to Vegas and we went through Death Valley. And so, I mean, it was crazy. And then we ended up at the Bellagio and had like an end-of-the-night party and stuff. And what was cool is Longtail was started in 2021. and by Mike Knapp and Julie Milne. And what was cool is they started like 6 months before it actually happened.
Whoa,
like they booked
quick.
all the rooms, everything, not knowing they would get enough people to do it. Like talk about like a flyer. Like they're probably putting like $100,000
up front,
Right.
up front
without having nothing in return.
Kinda like-
having no money from people, right? Yeah. So I did that, and I mean, the people I met were awesome. Like I met a good friend, Shane Shangfield, who's out of Pittsburgh. He's a contractor. He and I talk.
Sterling over here that lives.
Sterling, well, he did 2022.
Oh, yeah,
he did 2022. Okay. 2021, I met Tony Stark. He's one of the biggest McLaren owners.
His actual name is Tony Stark?
That's what he goes by.
Okay,
yeah, just leave it at Tony Stark.
He's probably rich as hell.
Yeah, he's got a couple of cars, like that's 23. McLarens, plus other cars. But anyway.
Sounds like Tony to me.
Yeah, he definitely is. I met a couple dudes that own a website company, and they build they're like the WordPress of mobile apps. Mm-hmm. So like if you need to if you're doing a mobile app, you can literally like drop your artwork into their mobile app and it makes the mobile app for you rather than like having to get coded, right? So
I need that.
We need some
it's a company called Buildfire.
Sure. I need that.
Yeah, Buildfire.
Epic.
Yeah. Ian and Austin Blair, super dope
we'll talk
guys.
About that after.
Yeah, they're really dope guys.
Sure.
Like I would highly. Sure. I'm not trying to pump everybody, but
no, you're good, bro. This is a sport.
But like. So there's just so many people, and like everyone thinks that when you have a supercar or even a nice car, you got to be a certain like demographic, and it's not the way. Like everybody is successful.
All over the place.
It's all over the place. Like I'm a moderately successful construction dude that has no idea what's going on most of the time. And we have tech people who are like super dope into tech where their companies get sold to Amazon and they're like making like 7-8 figures off the sell off. And I'm like, wow, I feel really successful. But what was cool about Longtail was everybody there, no matter what tax bracket you sat in, you were all one group.
It was the same, yeah.
Yeah. So like we had a Cindy Eckert, super love Cindy to death. She brought the only FDA approved female Viagra to the market.
What?
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Cindy's awesome. So she's a big power player about wearing pink. So she wears it all the time. Like,
is her car pink?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah. But but really tastefully pink. Like she's super cool, super chill. You'd never bet she sold a company for $1 billion. That's what's up. But like she sat down with me, guy who makes like a couple $100,000 a year, and we're just shooting the breeze over dinner and over breakfast. And she's like the nicest person. Her fiance Justin, he's a graphic designer, and it was just like never in my life did I think I would sit next to these people, right? But like once you start talking and you all have this connection, it's what you should do. And people are like, oh, it's so expensive, and I'm like,
it's not. It's the network.
Yeah, the network.
Pretty
yeah,
important, right?
And like some of these people, I go down to different job sites and they're in that city. We grab dinner. We've talked about business deals. We've looked at like buying stuff and renting stuff out together, and that's where it's really about. Like just because somebody doesn't work in construction doesn't mean that there's not maybe they know somebody who's like, hey, I'm building a hotel, or maybe I'm building out an office space. Could you maybe look at building the space out? So that was 2021. It was pretty dope. 2022, I did it. And that was a different route. We started in San Francisco. If you remember The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. Do you remember the movie?
Which
I don't think I've seen it.
You guys
What's it called?
The Rock.
Oh, The Rock?
It's not Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock Johnson.
Jeez, these kids are young, man.
I'm not gonna lie, that was my
young.
first thought. All right.
Anyway, so there's a famous scene in this movie called The Rock because it's named after Alcatraz, where Sean Connery throws this dude off the balcony and like holds him up, and it's at the Fairmont Hotel, and it's a very famous hotel in San Francisco. So we started off there. Then we went to Tahoe, and then we went to Salt Lake City. And went to Vail. We spent 2 days in Vail. Then went to Santa Fe, and then we went to Scottsdale. And it was a drive. I'm not gonna lie. Like 1,500 miles last year was awesome. This year was like 3,000 miles.
It was double.
Oh, yeah, you've been over it,
bro.
I would have been over it,
bro. man.
The one that cars many miles now.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I put 3,000 on it, and I put like another 8,000 on top. But I mean, the cool part about that is like, you know, a lot of the people that did long tail last year came back to this year, and then there's a new group of people. That's where I met Sterling and Jared and those guys. And a lot of them, like, they're super close friends now. I mean, I think Jared and I and Sterling were out driving the other night with DJ and Tristan. And
they came over here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I've had people come into town from Longtail who just got going to be in town for a day, and like we make it a point to see it, like see each other, right? And when I was in, so talking about how Longtail is like really a networking thing, you know, there's deals to be done and there's friendships to be worked out. But like I was in Santa Fe, and we stayed at this really awesome resort, and I wish I could tell you what it's called. I think it's called the Bishop's Lodge. And I was sitting there, I was walking out of the place. And this is like, for any business owner or person looking at starting a business, everybody's like an opportunity. And if you're not taking like that, if you're afraid to talk to somebody, get over that. Yeah. Like you got to, because if you don't, you're going to miss opportunities. So I met this dude walking out, and he was like, I could just see the stress on his face. And like, he was so pissed being there. I was like, man, this place is awesome. He's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I was like, it's like, you know, can't believe they're not done with construction. He goes, tell me about it. And I was like, oh yeah, what do you do? He goes, oh, I'm a finance director for a fund, like a hedge fund kind of company or a finance company. I was like, oh, cool. What are you here for? He goes, well, this is my project. I'm like, what do you mean this is your project? He goes, the developer that we financed to build this thing went bankrupt, and we took it over. And I was like, that sucks. He goes, yeah, I have a degree in finance. I don't know what I'm doing out here for construction. And I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm watching people work. I'm like, oh, that's what I do all day. He goes, isn't it funny? He goes, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, you're doing the job. Like, we never know what's going on. We never know what's going on. Most of the, like, unless you, like, I'll be honest, unless you speak like a couple different languages, you probably don't know what's going on most of the time. I speak English, and that's really a stretch. I know very little poquito español, and I know zero like any kind of other language. But anyway, so I'm talking with this guy, and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I go, oh, I'm a federal contractor. I build stuff. And he's like, oh, what do you mean federal contractor? And I go, oh, I build cemeteries, I build roads, I do all this other stuff. And he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, building buildings is a giant pain in the ass. He's like, tell me about it. I go, I hate them. And he goes, well, have you ever built any buildings? Yeah, I've done buildings. And he's like, yeah, managing these subs are a nightmare. He goes, I go, well, what's the problem? He goes, I can't get him to stay. I can't get him to keep coming back to work. I'm like, why can't you keep him come back? He goes, well, they have other projects and they're late and this and that. And I go, well, what are you doing to keep him on the job? And he goes, well, I just asked him to come back. I go, do you pay him on time? And he goes, well, yeah. I go, don't pay him on time. Like, you show up here, you get paid. Like, you don't show up, you don't give me a schedule, you don't get paid. And we started shooting the breeze for about 20 or 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, you're flying out tonight? And he's like, yeah, I fly back to Scottsdale. It's like, okay, you've literally like like you're like 30-minute flight. Yeah, it's kind of close. Scottsdale to Santa Fe is like a 30-minute flight. Right. And I was like, he's like, well, where have you worked? I'm like, I've worked jobs in Puerto Rico and Texas and California. He's like, oh, Puerto Rico, how'd you work Puerto Rico? And I kind of went through our process of working through Puerto Rico. And so we're talking through stuff, and I kind of explained my process. Like, you can buy all the product in Miami, put it on a barge, and get it there. You're going to pay like a 30% increase because it's in Miami. Mm-hmm. It's just more expensive because it's such a big city. Or you can buy it in like Nebraska, put it in the same Connex box, put it on a train, ship it to Miami. You're going to save yourself 20%. Put it on the same barge and get it there. Mm-hmm. So you just saved yourself 20% money. And he was like, I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, it's all about thinking outside the box. Because if you think, well, Miami is so close, is the closest big city to Puerto Rico. I'm just going to buy it all there. Well, we have a great rail system or transport system. Why wouldn't you just do that? Yeah. And he was like, I never thought of it. He goes, well, we have a 500-room hotel that we just took over, and like 200-room housing development on the west side of Puerto Rico. So it's away from San Juan, which is on the east side. He goes, would you be interested in looking at something like that? And I'm like, yeah. Now, granted, this thing's probably like $500 million, $1 billion project. Yeah. I got no business doing this at all. And the dude's like, well, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about maybe consulting and helping us like look at how to like secure stuff like that and like where the pitfalls are working in Puerto Rico. And I'm like, yeah. So we've had conversations since that long tail rally conversation. about it. And crazy thing is he and I talked. Dude's got the company's got more money than I know what to do with, like ever. Like, so if anybody remembers the old Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas, they own that. Yeah.
Oh wow!
And it's now called the Virgin. I'm like, oh, I thought Richard Branson. Goes, he's the name. We financed the construction. I was like,
he's like, yeah, okay.
Cool. I'm like, okay. All right.
Now we're talking.
Now I'm not talking to the actual money people, right? Like I was like, all right, cool. So that's where these kind of events where people are like, these aren't worth it. Well, they're not worth it unless you go out there and actively like
make it worth it, right?
Yeah, make it worth it, but you got to be genuine about it, right? Like you can't go in there and be like,
I'm the shit.
Hey, I own a construction company. How can I build something for you?
Right. Right. You can't be thirsty about it.
You can't be thirsty about it at all, right? And it's like, one of the guys from Longtail 2022, first guy came in, Dan Cohen, super nice dude. Like I'll see him here in 2 days. He's a rep for a company called XComp. They're a tire manufacturer. Yeah. A lot of people don't know him in the car world, but if you know him in like Baja Racing and those types of things, that's their tires. Like most people run XComp tires. And so he was on the rally. We were talking. We hit it off going quadding one day. We were up in Vail quadding, and we just shoot the breeze. He got married, and I'm 44. I still party like I'm 25. Like I still get down, and like and he and I just clicked, and it was really cool. But like when the rally was over, my truck needed new tires, and I was like, "Hey, I need new tires." He's like, "Oh yeah, here's a discount code. Go ahead and line those tires up." So I got those lined up, and they came in, and Johnny, you helped me out with finding the guy that put them on the tires. But like, I would never buy tires from like I'd go to Les Schwab and buy tires, right? But because like one, I don't have the machine to put them on, so I could be out there with like a flathead screwdriver trying to get the bead on. Like I would have no like watching a YouTube video. Like how am I going to do this, right? And just screwing it up. But like knowing you work in the automotive space here in Portland. I got tires coming in. You hooked me up with a guy who can do this on the side, so it cost me a couple $100. But like I'm supporting a buddy of mine's company that's doing tires.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when my McLaren needed new tires, I found this out the wrong way. When your tires go low, like consistently are going low, you probably need to change your tires. I found this out because the McLaren was running on the treads, like the steel belts were coming through. I'm like, oh, weird. I don't know how they run out of air that fast. Well, we're holding air anymore. So, no shocker. In high school, I blew like 4 engines in my car because you got to change the oil in the cars. Didn't realize that. so maintenance is not my thing anymore. My wife is excellent at it. She has a schedule, a spreadsheet. She just tells me
Excel and everything.
Oh yeah, Excel is everything. So, but like Dan, like I was like, hey, I need new tires. Does X company have any tires here in San Diego available? And he's like, we have the fronts, but we don't have the backs. And I was like, shit, I kind of want them all to match, And he's like, well, do they have these tires? And I think they were like the P4s. I was like, they do. He goes, yeah, get those. So he's giving me advice as a friend and as a professional on getting something for my car.
Not just buy my tires instead.
Yeah, not just buy my tires, right? But like now, like our long tail group, I mean, Jared Hamill, who runs Highline Motors, like he's buying a ton of tires, putting them on his trucks. Sterling from Style Motors is doing the same thing. That's where those opportunities come in, and creating those relationships where you're not normally going to get that experience. You go to the car meetups and that's cool. Everybody's got their little clique. You get with like 30 guys and gals for 10 days. You're going to share an experience not many people are going to have. Yeah. And putting yourself out there. If you're worried you're not going to be the coolest dude, or you're worried that you're not going to know anybody, you're not going to experience. You're going to miss a lot. Yeah. Like,
gotta put yourself out there.
You're being president now.
Yeah, I love Portland. Portland's a great city, but there's a lot out there. Mm-hmm. And if you're worried about getting uncomfortable,
we live on that, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta live on the opposite side of comfort.
Live in uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like
man.
It's
you'll find the best parts of life on the other side of comfort, bro.
I mean, going like anybody who's gone really fast in cars, I think most people will realize you're not thinking about your day-to-day problems because you're worried about not dying.
Yeah.
Like you're just enjoying the experience. But
For real.
Low key.
Like,
after watching that clip you showed us, yeah, for sure.
yeah. But like, when you have those experiences, when you're doing that stuff, and you're like, that's like the most free time I've ever been, and that's like my like literal like, I love to drive. I mean, I put 10,000 miles on that McLaren since I bought it in April. Yeah. That's the most free time I am, because I don't have to think about how, my truck's doing, how I'm just enjoying being there. And then oftentimes I sit there and I think back, and I think a lot of business owners don't go through this process of, where were you 5 years ago? Yeah. Where were you 8 years ago? Because 8 years ago,
yeah, shit.
Man, when you look back, so much stuff changed so quickly.
Mm-hmm. And you can always find somebody else to be envious of, right? Like, somebody's doing it bigger than me. Somebody's doing it better than me. We're all a book. We're all in the library. We're all different. And you give up different things being successful. I mean, everybody wants to be Bezos or wants to be Elon Musk, but you don't see them out like doing other stuff. Like, their business is their passion. That is what brings them happiness. My business brings me happiness, but it allows me to enjoy my free time. Yeah. And I don't want to be connected to the job. And I think a lot of business people want that $1 billion idea. They don't understand like the commitment comes with that $1 billion idea.
Yeah, for real.
That's true.
But like enjoying the path. If year one, I made I think my taxes, Seabee made $140,000 in business, and I think my take home pay was $24,000.
Mm-hmm. Something though.
That was my paycheck last week.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But
it's true.
But you look back and you're like, man, you're like, oh, I'm doing crappy today. This year wasn't that great. And it's like,
just think back, take a second and be like, damn.
Yeah, take that step back, because you've come so far, but you're always comparing yourself to somebody else. Where's the next finish line? Where's the next motivation? And really not taking in that enjoyment of, think about, there's that saying, would 16-year-old me be proud of me? Yeah. I mean, 16-year-old me would be like, are you selling drugs? Just
So if you were to see 16-year-old you, what would you tell him right now?
Be like, keep going.
I just say, it's not going to be easy, but just keep going. Yeah. And that's what I would tell them. And that's what I tell everybody is just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but it gives you a better opportunity to be successful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It increases your luck because you worked for that luck.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Yeah. I mean, luck is an interesting thing. Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, you get lucky.
Right.
And sometimes you work your ass off and you get lucky.
Sometimes you create that luck.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a weird word if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you look at Jordan. And I mean, I like Jordan a lot, but I don't want to be cliche about him. But for you to step away for 2 years and play baseball,
that's gangster.
Yeah,
and give up that, talk about giving up an ego. And he's playing for a AA team in Alabama for the Birmingham, Bulls, and then come back and just pick up where he left off.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah. Like it's nothing. His drive, he knew he was the best when he left. Mm-hmm. He came back and it wasn't showing anybody else. He just was like, I know I'm the best. I'm going to keep doing this because I love playing the sport. Mm-hmm. Coming back and knowing you're going to have rough years. You're going to have years where, you're going to get your ass kicked. Mm-hmm. And I mean, 100% right now, this isn't my greatest year. Mm-hmm. I'm kicking it. I'm doing it. But I've got other projects that we got a year ago that are kind of carrying me through, and it just wasn't a great year. COVID's kind of catching up to construction in some aspects since we do federal work. Yeah. A lot of commercial and homeowner or home builders got into the federal marketplace, and I call them stealing the jobs. They didn't steal the jobs, but they bid jobs thinking, well, this is just commercial construction, or this is just homeowners construction.
I'm in for a treat.
You're going to jump through some other hoops, Gene.
And I never see them again. Yeah. And that's the thing is construction, there's the old saying, there's a saying, I love metaphors. My wife hates me that I always use metaphors. A cucumber is always going to be a pickle, but a pickle can never become a cucumber.
I like that.
You know, because once you make the cucumber a pickle, it's always a pickle. You can't go back, right? But you can always make a cucumber into a pickle, but you know, you can't go the other way. So like, I know there's going to be that ebb and flow. You know, Tom Brady won what, 6, 7 Super Bowls. He's played for 23 years. He's not winning every year, but he's a third of the time going to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, if you see him in the bowl,
if he's
might win it.
if he's on the field, you got a shot. And I think you got to have that same kind of confidence. Like, if you can make the playoffs as a business every year, you're winning. You know, I mean, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so my team sucks. But like
Jeremy's team too.
We know the Bears guy.
Yeah.
Jeremy, that's his team as well.
Yeah. Is Jeremy from
Fine Line Construction.
Like, listen, we're us construction guys. We are not good like team people. We cannot pick good.
He does
teams.
the fantasy stuff too. He's big on it.
Yeah, I'm not big on it because I get my ass kicked.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Right?
Yeah, I think I got one lucky year. But anyway, where I was going with that is like, if you can get to the playoffs every year in your business, you know, you're bringing home more money than you did the year before. You're winning.
Yeah, it's winning.
You know, but know that you're going to have that year with Tom Brady. You're going to blow your knee out. You're starting quarterback, and you're going to like just have to patch it together just to try and get to 500 and like not be in the bottom. But winning, I will say this: winning is a mentality that if you don't think you're going to win, you shouldn't ever start. Yeah. And if you don't walk into a room and say, I'm going to win, what are you doing it for? Like, no one wants to be second. Like, I can't tell you who came in second place in the West last year in the NBA. Can you?
We were not thinking about it.
No.
We're too busy popping champagne with the winners. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Golden State won.
Yeah.
I can't tell you who's second. You know? And that's the thing is, like, in my world, in construction, when you're bidding work like what we bid, you win, you're excited. You're second place, you'd rather be 7th place. Yeah. Because second place is like, we were close, but we weren't good. Like, we're that like
first losers.
Well, not only that, but like, you're so close. Like, you can go back through your head and say, where did I go wrong? Like, what else could we have done better? Right. And like, if I'm 3rd or 4th, I'm cool.
Right.
Because there's somebody in front of me, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes, like, it sucks when you lose. It sucks. But it makes you just want to win more. And the worst part about my world, and this is where a lot of people don't understand. So the worst part about my world is the federal government has a cutoff date. So September 30th is the end of the federal budget year. Most people don't realize. They think it's December 30th. It's actually September 30th. If a contract is solicited before September 30th, it has to be awarded by September 30th. If it's not, the job's canceled. So September 30th was a Friday this year. And on the 25th, I think it was a Monday, I bid a job in Utah. Second time I bid the job. First time I got the job, canceled it because it was a redesign because they screwed up the design.
Swapped it all up.
Yeah. And so it was laid dead for 2 years. So I went from a job that was like a $4.5 million job. I was going to make $600,000 on it after I paid all the expenses. Super stoked. 3 weeks into the job, they cancel it because they have found a massive design flaw, like $4 million change order on a $4 million job. Like,
so that was something they designed that you just needed to fulfill.
Yeah. And they were like, well, how do you fix this problem? I'm like, oh, well, you got to blow up all this ground and then you got to put in all this dirt and like, oh, how much is that? I'm like, oh, that's 4.2 million. Well, the whole job's 4.5. I'm like, yeah, you guys screwed up your design. We're going to have to cancel this because we don't have $4.2 million to put in. Like, you guys have the printing press, just fire it up. They're like, that's not how this works. I'm like, all right, get on crypto. I don't care. So they canceled the job. So I went from making $600,000 on the job to making like $25,000. Now, when you're a business and you're like, you've now set up your whole company because you have this one big job and you're going to fill in some gravy jobs on top, to now you got to fill in real jobs. Like, that's pivoting because like you got to figure that out. So I won that job, then lost it, and then waited 2 years, came back out and go to bid it. Called all the subs that I got the job with, and I bid the job, and they fixed everything that I told them they needed to fix. And it was like a $9 million job. Now I was low. One other person bid the job, and he was 11.5.
Which way did they lean?
Oh, well, no, they had to go to me. They had to go to the lowest guy.
Okay, I get it.
And they were like, and most people be like, oh, you left $2 million on the table. Well, The other guy's never done a cemetery. And I build cemeteries. And most people are like, well, how can you be $2 million? I'm like, if you've never done something before, you're gonna inflate. You're gonna increase your price because you don't know what you don't know. And I knew what I knew, and I knew how to do it all. So we won. They called me like, hey, you're low. I'm like, super. How low? And they're like, you're like $1.5 million. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Is that something where you actually propose it to them and you don't know what that number is?
Yeah, you don't know what their number is.
So you're kind of like
you're going in blind. Guess. Yeah. You're like, it's completely blind. It's like pick a number between 1 and 10 million. Yeah. And if your number is the lowest number,
you get closer.
Yeah, exactly. So I win. And he's like, hey, look for this contract here by Friday. Super stoked. Right. Like, I'm like, sweet. Now I'm going to go back to making like $800-900 gonna keep a job. I'm like Thursday afternoon, haven't seen the contract, which is really weird. Yeah. And so on Friday morning, I send an email like, hey, when's this contract coming? You're gonna see by the end of the day, I gotta sign it. And they're like, oh yeah, we're still working stuff, but we might not award this. And I'm like, listen, you're in a small city in Utah. If you don't award this, all these contractors have now bid this job twice. Trying to get a small city to bid it a third time, they're gonna be pissed. They didn't say anything. 30th rolls by. I'm like, what's up? They don't say anything. And like last week, they finally said, hey, we had to cancel the job. I'm like, why? Whoa. Like, we just couldn't get the contract out.
Oh, God.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
so that's on round 2 already.
Yeah. But so I'm putting in like 6-8 weeks worth of work on something to get 0. And that's like, that's the part that sucks.
And that's people don't see that. Like, oh, they see 9 million. Oh shit! But then you don't know, like, oh,
yeah, they're already celebrating with you.
And then at the end of the day, you got nothing out of it, and you wasted all the time.
And that's the thing. Like in construction, that's really frustrating. Is you put a lot of time into what you do, and you don't always win. And when I started, I worked on jobs that were like $100,000 to $500,000 in size, and we did like $4 or $5 million a year in those jobs. So, I mean, add those up. That's like 10, 15 jobs a year doing that. It's exhausting, but it's great when you do $1 million job. You only got to do 4 of those.
Right.
But then that $1 million job comes with a lot more, time, product, complications, all the stuff. Yeah, all the headaches. Because then you're putting, you have more jobs. You can spread a loss. Like if you lose money on $100,000 job and it's going to cost you maybe $1,000, only cost you 80 and it costs you 95. Okay, great. You lost 15 grand. Okay, spread that out. Like that 15 grand across $4 million of like 20 other jobs. You're really not going to miss that 15 grand. Yeah. Spread across 4 jobs at $1 million and you lost 150. You're going to realize it real quick. Yeah. So it's kind of like, gambling a little bit. But it's definitely something that, if you're gonna do it, go in. Go all in, jump in.
So I got a question for you. So, like, of course, there's gonna be a lot of contractors who might like do exactly what you do.
Yeah.
But are there any like tips or just overall things that they should think about when they're going into a bid to kind of give them an upper hand, or just something they should understand going into something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going into the federal world, understand that you are already working for the biggest enforcement agency in the world. You're not going to be able to scare them. You're not going to be able to like muscle them around. They control everything, and their contracts are their contracts. There's no
redlining.
No, there's no red line. It's like, here's the contract. Yeah. Sign it or don't do the job. And that's it. Like, that's kind of the way. And if you, and I don't want to say the government's heartless, but they are. I mean, if you miss something, they'll feel bad, but they want their project. Yeah. And they're going to take their pound of flesh one way or the other. Either you're going to give them the job that they want, or they're going to go against your bond and make the bond company take everything from you to get the job that they want.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a really simple thing. Like, so the devil's in the details in the feds. The feds have the Buy American Act. And it's loosely tied to things need to be made in America or sourced in America. They don't want things from China. They don't want things from Russia. They don't want things from countries that have hostile kind of situations against the U.S. there's stories where somebody built an airplane hangar, like a pre-engineered metal building, domed hangar, and they put all the screws in, they put it all together, and when they were inspecting it, all the screws said made in China. They made them pull all those things out.
Oh, wow.
So months of work.
Basically, had to
they had to rebuild the whole thing.
That's pretty
on their dime.
On their dime.
Yeah.
It wasn't on the feds because it's in the spec. It tells you what it is. And most people think like, okay, you see the plans for a job, that's the job. Well, yes, but the specs are like all the materials in there. And they're like, well, usually in most construction, it's the plans supersede the spec. In the feds, it's the opposite. The spec supersedes the plans. And there's a lot of tests in there that people don't realize because they don't do them. Like in the state of Oregon, city of Portland, they don't do these types of tests. I mean,
so you got to comb through those contracts to kind of understand even what you're working with.
Yeah, like irrigation. Like I know this sounds silly, but like irrigation, every lateral, like where all your sprinkler heads are, they come off a main line. We got to test every one of those, and people are like, oh, that's not that bad. Okay, that's not that bad. You're right. It's 2 hours to test each lateral to keep pressure.
Yeah.
We did a cemetery in Sacramento, California. We added 59 acres of grass. It took us 7 months to test all the laterals.
Jesus. Just that.
And they were already installed, or is that something that you guys
you
put
test
in
them
and
as
then
you
test
install?
Okay.
So if they fail, you've got to then fix it, retest it.
Got it.
So you, like if you aren't planning for those types of tests, like you just throw your irrigation in,
All good.
it's ready to good.
Yeah, hit the
And
switch.
you don't have the test, they're gonna make you pull everything out.
Oh god.
And
What goes into the test? Is it just sparking them on and seeing if they
no,
water right?
no,
or-
it's about putting air or water into the line, and it has to hold and you have a pressure meter in there, and it has to hold the pressure for 2 hours.
Oh.
And if it drops more than 5 pounds, it fails. Like, let me tell you the ways this thing can fail. Not enough glue, too much glue, no glue. Somebody didn't use the Teflon tape on the sprinkler heads. I mean, so many things can fail.
Yeah.
And then you got to fix it. And it's not like,
You gotta find it too. So
you got to find it. Yeah. So, or what if you have a bad gauge?
Gee.
Like
That really
legit.
speaks to the quality line that, that the Fed level is at, right?
Yeah, because like they see these things and they try and plan that these are going to last for 10 to 20 years. A cemetery, they look at a national cemetery is the same way they look at like the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the White House.
Yeah.
So it's built to the same
Standard.
require. And, not only that, being Navy guy, you're building a cemetery for veterans. And so, that's where their families are going. And, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, throw me in the ocean, don't put me on don't carry me around in like the back of your Honda Civic. Like, just like, sometimes you see headstones and you can see the headstones like they're born in, 96 and they died in 23 or 2020 or 2018 or 2015. You're like, bro, they're like 18, 20 years old. I can't imagine being a parent having to go to my kid's gravesite. And then on top of that, like, what if the grass is brown? Like, now you're disrespecting my son's or daughter's last gravesite. So you have to take that kind of pride on what you're doing, because if you don't, you're going to hear about it. And the government has like zero qualms about quashing you on quality work.
Because they can cut you off, huh?
Well, they can cut you off. I mean, and if they cut you off, I mean, it's a death knell. Like, they'll call your bond. The bonding company gets involved. It's a nightmare. But then not only that, if you get like, everyone's probably seen War Dogs with Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, they got canceled for cause, for basically supplying illegal ammunition, like Russian-made ammunition.
That, yeah.
They weren't allowed to bid contracts for like 10 years. So if your whole business is focused around feds, you can't do Fed work,
P's and Q's, bro.
yeah, I mean,
it's over.
It's over. And then you got to go try and figure out like the state stuff and the city stuff and the private stuff.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's just too hard.
Cool.
I mean, not too hard. But.
So you have to keep your work at a certain standard, and then also consider the fact that it's bigger than just a job.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to carry on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it as like bigger than, like, I don't care, like what I do is bigger than just a job. Everything you should do in your business should be bigger than the job. You want to have a repeat person. Even if like you're going to build a house, you might only ever build one house for one dude. But that one dude could tell, oh, this guy built a house.
Yeah. Word of mouth.
But on the flip side, you know, Johnny, you and I have been around the car world long enough, and you've seen guys come and go. You know, if somebody does a really crappy job on your car, I may only tell like one or two people how great you did in my car. I'm gonna take everybody how bad you did on my car.
Oh yeah, we've been there.
Yeah,
we've been there.
Yeah, and you know, it's hard to come back from those things. You know, and it's especially when you lose that respect from an industry. You know, like Portland's like got a decent car community, but it's still really small. And so if you lose trust of that community,
your bubble,
you're done. Like, might as well move on. You know, move over to Boise or move. You know, move to Salt Lake.
Yeah, you lose the trust of everybody.
Yeah,
yeah. So before we close this out, just this one thing I want to ask: like, what advice would you give somebody that's starting out, that's entrepreneur, wants to start a business? Like, what's one thing that you give them?
Don't listen to anybody else that says you can't do it.
Oh, yep.
Just go do it. Like, just do it. Like, Nike said it best. Just do it.
Just do it.
It's not going to be easy. You're not going to be like, man, you know, I'm making hundreds of dollars a day. Like, I'm making dollars a day. You know, it's not easy. But if you stick with it, eventually it's going to click. And that's kind of what happened with me. Is it just clicked eventually, like doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think that's something that everybody who's become a little bit successful, they have that in common. They just kept going. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't even necessarily all of a sudden, but just one day you woke up and you're like, dang.
Yeah. I mean,
we got somewhere.
It terrifies me. I mean,
and you're still going.
Yeah. And there's going to be days when, I mean, if you ever remember looking when you first moved out or whatever, and you had like your rent due and all these bills, and you had your paycheck, and you're like, well, these things don't add up.
Some happened. It doesn't add up.
That's running a business too, because
that's true.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, just doing it is like probably just starting it and getting out there and doing it. You're not going to know everything. You're going to learn like the way everybody else learns. And anybody who's successful in whatever business they're in, learn the exact same way. Perfect. No one ever just came out the gate and be like, I'm going to crush it. Yeah. So, so if you want something else other than like just go out there and do it, gosh, I would probably say be okay with failing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a big one.
Yeah. Like failing is not a bad thing. If you do the same thing over and over again, and like that's what's causing you to fail, that's something you're to look at how you change. But if you make a mistake,
it's like riding a bike. You fall, but then eventually you're gonna learn how to not fall no more.
Yeah. You would not know how to ride your bike without falling.
Exactly.
I mean, Kobe and Jordan, cheesy to say this, the reason why they gave those guys the ball in the last seconds to shoot it is because they were willing to take all the heat,
all the risk,
or all the glory for hitting that shot.
That's facts.
And when they hit the shot, cool. When they don't hit the shot, when they hit the shot, you'll never hear, oh yeah, I won the game. It was like, we had a great team, came down the wire, we did great. When they miss the shot, it's like, it's the best look I got. It's all on them. It's all on them. And that's what you got to do. You got to have those shoulders.
Yeah, man. Well, as a business owner, man, you got to make sure that you can take that heat. You know what I'm saying?
Well, appreciate Jonathan, having us come out your house here and take your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And make sure you guys subscribe, like, follow. Comment some hate. I don't know. Do some. Get some interactions going on.
Yeah, do it all. I mean,
let us know what your best quotable was from my boy Jonathan, because he was spitting for real.
Yeah, well, I mean, for these guys, you definitely, give these guys a shout out. Like, seriously, when people are starting something, we always say, hey, we're going to support. That's going to be a great job, or you're going to go do it. You show it. If there's 200 views from people, there should be 200 likes. There should be 200 shares, because that's really what helps people out. I mean, sharing something doesn't take more than just a click. That's all it takes. It doesn't take you to write down your socials. It doesn't tell you to sign up for a credit card. Just do that simple stuff. Exactly. It really helps your friends out.
Exactly, man. PDX BizTalk, where we have real conversations with real business owners. I'm Zeke Jones. It's my boy Johnny. Shout out to my boy Jonathan. Thanks y'all for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Let's go.
Later.